As we all know, the United States just recently fired 60-some-odd Tomahawk missiles into an air base inside of Syria. Now, this had just occurred 1 or 2 days ago, and now we have more information that's been coming out about it. The U.S. launched a missile strike on the Syrian air base, killing at least 6 people, including civilians, which includes 2 children, and wounded several others. The victims have been reported by the governor of the Syrian province of Homs. Reactions to the operation continue to roll in, with Russia condemning it while EU countries and others express support. U.S. President Donald Trump ordered a military strike on an airfield in Syria near Homs, which resulted in a Friday pre-dawn attack in which 59 Tomahawk missiles were deployed. Meanwhile, the SANA Syrian news agency is saying there has been 9 civilian deaths, including 4 children. According to the Syrian government and the Russian Ministry of Defense, 6 MiG-23 fighters were destroyed in the operation, along with a material storage depot, a facility, a canteen, and a radar station. This has been confirmed by both the Syrian government and the Russian Ministry of Defense. Washington claimed the strike was a response to an earlier alleged chemical attack in Syria's Idlib province, for which the U.S. blamed the Syrian government. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that the strike reminds him of the 2003 invasion of Iraq, which was launched without the approval of the UN Security Council, just as this attack was. He went on to state that Washington has not presented any evidence to back its allegation that Damascus was behind the chemical attack. Subsequent information that has come out strongly suggests that the chemicals were the property of the imperialist-backed rebels in the region, and that the footage of the notorious White Helmets was probably faked. Now, it should be absolutely no surprise that U.S. allies in the region have hailed the unjustified, barbaric attack on the Syrian people, while many of the American people actually did not. This strike seems to be very unpopular among the regular working Americans, even those who voted for Donald Trump, many of whom are now denouncing him for having taken the action, those of which who were the most completely blindsided by his campaign and believed him to be their savior. Meanwhile, on the left, or the liberal that pretends to be left, the so-called socialist Bernie Sanders has actually hailed the move and jumped on the pro-war bandwagon. In a statement on Facebook, he said, "In a world of vicious dictators, Syria's Bashar Assad tops the list as the dictator who has killed hundreds of thousands of his citizens to protect his own power and wealth. His regime's use of chemical weapons against the men, women, and children of his country in violation of all international conventions and moral standards makes him a war criminal." Now, his statement is very telling. Many of the people who supported Bernie Sanders and continue to do so now claim that this would not have happened if he were president, and that this whole war, the possibility of a third world war breaking out over this incident, is not their fault because they didn't vote for Donald Trump. Yet we can see very clearly Bernie Sanders supports the attack, and that their claims that this is not my America, or this is not the America that I voted for, is absolutely false. This is America. This is American imperialism. This is mainstream American politics. There is no getting away with this just because someone falsely claims to be socialist or joins the Democratic Party. Now, speaking at an emergency meeting to discuss the United States missile attack on the country, the Bolivian ambassador to the United Nations, Sacha Laurenti, criticized Donald Trump's decision and likened it to the war in Iraq.
Quiero recordar lo que pasó en este mismo consejo hace algunos años, para ser preciso, el miércoles 5 de febrero del año 2003, cuando el entonces secretario de Estado de los Estados Unidos venía a esta sala a presentarnos, según sus propias palabras, pruebas contundentes de que existían armas de destrucción masiva en Irak. Y yo creo que es imprescindible que recordemos esas imágenes, que recordemos que en esta misma sala se nos dijo que habían armas de destrucción masiva en Irak y que eso motivó una invasión. Y esa invasión, después de esa invasión, se han registrado 1 millón de muertos y se ha desatado una serie de atrocidades en la región. Podríamos hablar de ISIS
sin esa invasión?
About ISIS, if that invasion had not taken
Podríamos
place?
hablar de esa
Could we be talking
serie de
about
gravísimos
this
y horrendos
series of
ataques en distintos lugares
horrendous
del mundo
attacks in various parts of the
sin esa
world?
invasión
Had that
ilegal?
invasion, this illegal invasion, not taken place?
Meanwhile, tensions continue as a Russian warship has entered the Mediterranean Sea and is headed towards the two United States Navy destroyers that launched the attack on the Syrian airbase, according to a report from Fox News. According to the report, the Russian ship came from the Black Sea and went through the Bosphorus Strait to reach the Mediterranean. There's no indication yet what the warship's intention are, or if it is headed on a collision course with the two Navy destroyers. The Fox report also claims that the Russian ship is armed with advanced caliber cruise missiles. The report also notes that Russian news agency TASS claims that the frigate was headed on a routine trip towards a logistics base in Tartus, Syria, which is located 98 miles to the northwest of the capital city of Damascus. Now, many political commentators, particularly those who were trying to defend the United States, said that this was just a minimal strike to get attention or to send a message. It was not part of a larger attempt to invade the country. However, the U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said that steps are underway to in building an international coalition to pressure the Bashar al-Assad government from power. The Fox News TV channel reported on Thursday, that's right, there is now a coalition of the willing, Syrian style, very much like that what was pulled off in Iraq, to garner support for invading Syria. This statement was made in West Palm Beach, Florida, after welcoming China's President Xi Jinping for a two-day summit with U.S. President Donald Trump. So far from this idea that it was just a limited strike intended to send a message to Bashar al-Assad and his allies, this actually does appear to be the beginning of an actual boots-on-the-ground invasion of Syria with multi-states participating in it. Very similar, if not actually the same, as what took place in Iraq. And it's situations like this that reminds us why the DPRK has been so adamant about keeping nuclear weapons. It seems to be that the only country that the United States is at this state of hostilities towards, yet will not take direct military action against, is the DPRK, because it has a significant deterrent in its nuclear weapon stockpile, however limited it may be, so that if there is an invasion of the country, they will make the cost of that invasion quite pricey. Now, this whole situation does not go very well and is threatening to break out into a larger world war. The reason is that Russia has already announced its support for the country, and that if the US were to invade, it would go along and defend Syria from the United States. Now there has been a direct military strike on Syria by the United States. It is now up to Russia to back up their own words, to verify what they were saying, to carry out on their own promise to defend the Syrian people. And the question is Russia going to do it? Is there going to be an actual military effort by Russia to counter the U.S. strike inside of the country? And if so, is this the kind of thing that's going to build into a larger conflict that could possibly explode globally into a third world war? All of this because the US-backed terrorists in Syria have not yet been able to overthrow the Syrian government, or are in the process of completely failing to do so. What we're seeing right now is a very scary situation. The next move belongs to Russia and other allies that are in league with Syria, defending its right to self-determination and its self-defense. It's up to them to see what happens next. What is the countermeasure that's going to happen to that they're going to take against the United States for this assault on the sovereignty of Syria? Right now, it appears to me that there's probably going to be some kind of application to the UN to censor or produce some kind of penalty against the United States government for carrying out this sort of attack. But it remains to be seen if such a measure would actually be useful. I would tend to think that it would not be, and that this is going to come down to a military force. If the the US is going to put together a coalition of the willing, another one, to go ahead and invade Syria, it's really going to be up to Russia and China to possibly do something militarily about it. The question is, who's going to be the one that's going to take the biggest steps to risk a third world war?
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.